Okay, so it's recording from this point on, Patricia. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Dylan with E00, E01, and E11. Okay, how big is Dylan? I actually printed them a little bit bigger than I normally would so that they would come up better in the video. Dylan is in inches. He's about 4 inches, not including the tip. So he's 4 inches from the top of his head down to his feet. Alrighty. So I'm going to start with E00, and I'm going to have my light source coming from the top right. And so I'm going to start with my shading. And I lay down my E00, my lightest color, where I want the shadows to be so that I can wet the paper before I lay the darker colors down. And what this does is before the darker colors, they'll float on the surface longer, allowing me to blend them easier. I'm using the Make It Color paper that I found. It's one of the best in my opinion. Hi Anne. Okay, so now I'm coming in with E01, and hopefully, can you all see, or should I zoom in just a little bit? I'll try zooming in. It might go a little bit blurry, I'm sorry. Is that okay, everyone? All right, awesome. Okay. So I'm coming in with E01 to add some extra depth just over the areas that I've just colored. And try and make sure I don't get my hands in the way. And you'll notice that I'm really light when I touch the paper. I try to put as less ink on as I can so that I can continue to layer it up. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with E11 and go over the same areas. Thank you. I'm still a bit nervous. My hands are shaking. You'd think that I'd be over this by the, considering I've already done one this morning. It's a new crowd, you see. Got to be a crowd pleaser. Yeah, I was thinking that. Anne is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to come in with my E01 and blend out the E11 a little. But I don't want to do too much, so I'm just going to sort of dab along the edges. And when I color, I push the ink in the direction that I want it to go. So if I want it to be, if I don't want to take it out, I'll push it down, so I'll follow the line that I've gone along. So I guess I'm just softening, I'm just touching it enough to soften the edges. Okay, so I'm going to come in with E-triple-O, and I'm pushing the ink back now. And when you use your really light colors, you will actually lift off your darker colors. So you just need to be careful about how much color you remove, but you can always come back in. So now I'm just flicking towards the center, being very light. And I'm just going around and blending where I can, where I see it needs some blending. And he needs some rosy cheeks, but because he's a boy, I'm not going to give him pink cheeks. So I'm going to use my, what color will I use? I'll use EO1 and just give him some cheeks, and so I'm just dabbing that on. And I'm going to touch it up just slightly with E11. And then I'm going to come back with my E-triple-O and just go over the top to sort of melt it, I say. You'll see that I'm just sort of dabbing it. I'm not pushing it anywhere because I don't want to move it. I just want to melt it sort of into the other colors. And just to finish him off, I'm going to what is going on? I'm glad I was coloring. Okay, so I'm coming in with E11 just to make the bangs or the shadows of those bangs just a little bit darker. And I'm not going to blend this, I'm going to leave it as is. And I'm being really, really light because I want it to be right on the edge. Like that. Does anyone have any questions? So would you like me to call it a fringe? A fringe. No questions? Okay, all right, then moving on. So I'm going to do his arms now. I always do in little sections. And considering we've got our light source, we've still got our light source coming from the top right. He's going to have some shading here from his t-shirt. And to give him some depth, we're going to bring some shadow down this side and under his hands here. His hand. Okay, so I'm coming in with EO1. And again, let's bring that down. And then E11. So at the moment I'm not being too careful, I'm just laying down the colour. Then we're going to come back. So I'm coming back with my EO1. And now I'm going to push that back towards the edge with my EOO. So I'm pushing in the direction that I want it to go. And because I'm actually pulling off colour when I do this a little bit too much, I then come back in with my EO1 and flick across that whilst it's still wet, and it will keep it will give it a really nice smooth finish. And then just to finish, I'm going to come down the side here, and that's the last thing that I do. Actually, no, it's not, because I want it to be the shadow here to be slightly more defined. So I'm going to finish off by doing that. Okay, so how's that looking, everyone? Can you see okay, or is it too blurry? Okay, cool. All right, I shall continue. So again, we're going to have our light source here, so we're thinking about that. We're going to bring some shadow on this side of his arm. Top of his arm is going to be, or top of his fingers are going to be heavy. His head will be casting a shadow on them. So I'll do that. Who's M. Shell? Oh, hi, Shell. I thought it might have been you. Cool. Okay. Oh, that was EO1, everyone. Sorry. So now we're going to E11. And now I'm coming back to EO1. As you can see, there's lots of changing between the colors and quickly whilst it's still wet. And I always color in flicks because it doesn't lay down as much ink. And I'll show you an example of that in a minute, of the difference between coloring with flicks and coloring with circles. I'm back onto EO1 and I'm just flicking the last of the color over the EOO. Hi there. Who's a Morales? Oh, hi, Adriana. Thank you. Okay. So now I'm just going to quickly do his legs. I'm not going to talk, so you're just going to have to watch. So it's going to be exactly the same process, and I'm just going to be going through the EOO, EO1, and E11. So if I don't talk, I'll colour faster. So I'm just trying to guess where his knee is and then give it a little bit of a shadow so he's got some dimension. See, I couldn't help but talk, could I? That'd be right. Hi, Ruby. I'm using E000, E01 and E11 for the skin. And so because his knee isn't flat, I'm just going to bring some of the E01 colour up where the shadow is. And I'm just bringing some more colour into his legs so that he doesn't look... I'm just turning the paper just to make it easier for me. And that's something to think about when you're colouring, is if you feel uncomfortable in the direction that you're colouring, your colouring won't be as good. And I'm sure that most of you who have seen people colouring on video, they'll always be complaining about, oh, it's, I feel really awkward and whatnot. It's because we're, trying to make it so that you can see what we're doing. And so some people prefer to flick away from them and some people feel more comfortable flicking towards themselves. So practice and see what sort of naturally feels better and then just go with that. Don't try and go in a direction that is difficult or that feels difficult. So I'm just adding some E11 here just to define some of these shadows. Now another tip is depending on what type of paper depending on the type of paper that you're using, some of you may have found that you're having problems with ink sitting on the surface. And so a little tip that I have is if you're oversaturating the paper, and it might only take 3 layers for different types of papers, they have different what am I saying, different saturation levels. So if you find that your ink is sitting on the surface, I'm missing what you're talking about. Someone recap. Ah, I've actually spoken to Anika about doing that. How cool would that be? That would be pretty funny. I'll talk to him. Maybe we can organize something. You just never know. Okay. So, sorry Z, what are you colouring on? What do you think, Ruby? What do you think I'm colouring on? So for everyone else, I'm colouring on the Make It Colour brand of Copic paper. And I've hunted high and low. I've hunted high and low for the best paper for me, because I won't say it's the best paper for everyone because it depends on your technique. But there's been lots of rave reviews about this paper, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. So anyway, I was trying to say before we were all talking about Anika and me doing a combined video. If you've got a paper saw, a paper where the ink is sitting on the surface, the trick that I do, and it can also happen with my paper as well, when you've got a really high pigmented ink color like reds, and the worst one for me is E29. And it sits on the surface and you get that glossy sort of patch. I just grab a bit of paper towel, and once I see it, I just dab on top, and just to try and suck it up off the top of the surface so it doesn't stay glossy. I just want to EO1, I'm just blending out this shadow that I've just put here. And just making sure that I'm happy with everything. Okay, it's starting to look a little bit too pink. It's been out in the sun a lot. So I'm just going to come in with my E-triple O and just push some of that colour back. Okay. So just going to do the other leg. And so I'm just wetting that again because it's obviously dried. I took too long. Come in with E11. And, oh, sorry, that was E01. I'm doing E11 now. E01. I'm just feathering out this line that I've done. And now back with E-triple O, and I'm just bringing it closer to the white area, not quite covering it yet. And then back with my E01 just to bring the color back. And finish off with my E-triple O. Okay. I haven't done his neck. Poor little guy. Just do that. I'm coming straight in with E11 because it's in a very small area. E01. And then just E-triple O just to finish that corner there. Okay. Okay, everyone. So, who would like to? Okay, well, let's have a vote on what color we should do his t-shirt. What color would you like me to see? Would you like to see? Would you like me to use? We've got 2 for blue, 2 for red, 3 for blue. Well, how about we do a red t-shirt and blue shorts? Everyone happy with that? Okay. Alrighty. Now, the reds that I use, I did get some new ones recently, which are pretty nice, but I'm going to use my regulars. At least I know what I'm doing then. What did I do with it? Oh, there it is. Okay, so here are my tricks of the trade. I use R22, R24, and R29 as my main red colors. I just find them to be a real red, like a Christmas red. And then to get the depth and really deep shadows, I use E19. And if I want it even deeper, I'll also add E29. So I'm going to start with R22. And could someone type those colors into the screen for me, into the chat, so that everyone can get it? Yeah, just, okay. I will type it into the screen. R22, R24, R29. Thanks, Jen. Okay. So I'm going to start with R22. And we're going to, this is my lightest color that I'm using, and this is where I'm going to decide how I want my folds to be. And as you can see, there's already illustration, there's already lines to give you a guide of where you want your folds to be. So considering we've got our light source coming from the right hand side, this big fold here, I'm going to guess that the light source, the lighter side of that fold, is going to be the right hand side. So I'm going to turn him around so that's easier for me. And I'm going to start bringing in my color on this side. And then, sorry, there's going to be lots of turning. I'm going to bring my shadow under here as well. And I'm going to bring some shading across here. Now I'm just guessing as I go. I just play around until it looks right to me. So if you went and looked at what you were wearing at the moment in the mirror, you'll notice that you've got folds everywhere all over your clothes. So there's no right or wrong way of doing this. So I've got this little fold here. So I'm just going to bring that up like that. And just to make it so it doesn't look like just one great big fold, I'm going to also add another little flick up there. And I'm just going to, I don't know, I'm just going to muck around and try different things, and we'll see how it turns out. So with his arm here, he's going to have some creases coming down this way. And let's make it that his top arm is creating some creases up the top here as well. I'll bring that one sort of down over there or something. Just bring some shading in here. And for here, just bring that out. I might just put a little pocket in here. Okay. All right, well, let's just start with that. We can always work on that. So I'm going to come in with my R29 now. And the idea is when I'm thinking about how I'm going to do my folds, if I'm thinking that my light source is going to be on this side, I want to bring my darkest edge to that side so that I can leave the other side as light as I possibly can. So I'm just going to bring my red along the edge here. So I'm using R29 now. And okay, so now I'm going to come in with R24 and start adding in some extra color. Start filling in some of these areas. Just about folds in the clothes help a lot. Okay, thanks. And okay. Well, are you gonna do a video on distress inks, because I cannot use it at all. R24. So I'm just filling in some of these areas now. So I'm going downwards, but I'm being careful not to fill in over my white, or the areas that I want to be highlighted. Okay. Sorry, went off screen then. R22, so I'm coming back to R22. I'm going to fill in a lot more area now. And it's the whole process of layering the colors on each other that creates your folds and creates the dimension. So it does take a little bit of time doing this, but the results are awesome. Actually, I just want to bring in a little bit there. It's a bit thick. Sorry, wait a second. I'm reading your message. Z, so you want to connect the flicks. No, you don't really want to connect the flicks. You just want to start, building it towards your highlights. Excuse me a sec. Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, I'm just having a coffee made for me. Such a lovely man. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in E19 now to add some additional depth. And this is where it really starts to pop. So I'm bringing that depth in now. And because I've put so many colors on, this is going to start to sit on the surface just a little bit if I'm not careful. And if I see it getting glossy anywhere, I'll just grab my paper towel. But again, I'm being light, touching it very lightly. Don't want to put too much ink on. Okay, and now I'm going to do that at the end. So now I'm going to come back with my R24. Yes, I'm recording. Okay, R24. And I'm just bringing in some of this color because the last color that I'm going to use to go over the white is the R22. So I'm just working it now, just working out where it is that I want the highlights to be. And as you color it, you sort of get more of an idea of where it's going to be. So, and this is probably the point where you start joining them together, Ruby. Still using R22, oh, R24, sorry. All right. So I'm going to come in with R22 now. And I'm going over all of the white. Okay, and then with the R24 again, just to define some of those colors and just make sure I'm happy. So I might go over this a few times whilst I'm just, because you don't necessarily know exactly how it's going to look until you've colored it all in. So this is the time where you sort of fix it up and make it to your liking. It's not too bad. It's not great. All right, so just to make it pop just that little bit more, now is when I come in with E29, and I'm just going to, and this because I've done this section here, this is going to well, so many times. Okay, here's my coffee coming. And that was Pluto introducing my coffee. And there is Pluto. Jason, everyone wants you to say hello.
Hey crafters, how you going?
So there you go. Yes, first time I'm using E29, right at the end. Okay, so I'm just doing some final touches with the E29. And this is such a highly pigmented color that it is sitting on the surface. So I'm just going to grab my paper towel and dab it as I go, and that will help to pick it up and not be shiny. All right. So that's his top done. And you'll be able to see that later when you'll see that better when I upload the image. I'll take a photo when we finish, and you'll be able to see it on Facebook. And I'll also list all the colors that I've used and everything like that. So hopefully you picked up some tips there. Does anyone have any questions before I move on to his shorts? Yep, it's okay if you can see the strokes. Oh, yes, you don't have to be nice and smooth. Bye, Patricia. Thanks for stopping by. You can leave your highlights white, but it may not look as good. You might be better going with, well, it depends on what colors you're using. Just one moment while I shut the door. Okay, so I'm going to move on to his shorts now. We're going to do the blue shorts as per requested. But actually, first what I wanted to show you is how many of you yes, it depends on the fabric that you're trying to portray, I guess. Like for boots, for example, you know, leather boots or something, I would definitely leave a white highlight. So I was just wondering, how many of you color with circles or flicks? And do you find that you have trouble layering a lot of colors on top of each other when you color with circles? I want to, the reason, well, sorry. The reason that I ask is I wanted to show you what happens. What was the color that I was using earlier? Purples. So you saw that in my image how I coloured over and over and over in particular areas. And if you look on the back of my page here, even with all of that red that I layered on top of each other, you can see that it hasn't completely saturated the whole paper, which has allowed me to continue to layer colours upon colour upon colour. Layer, layer, layer. Whereas if you colour with circles, what happens is you're putting so much ink down. So I'm just going to put that down, and let's come in with the darkest colour, and let's say I'm doing my edge, and I want to try and blend that into my lightest colour. So I'm trying to blend that line out, and then I've got to try and blend that line out. See, I've even gone to flick. So if I'm doing all these circles, if you have a look on the back, you can see how much it's come through. Now if I do the same using a light touch with flicks, I still get all the colour there. And I come through with my B66, and then I come through with my B63 to try and blend that out, and then come back with my B60. If you look at the back, sorry, so this is the second one compared to the first one. And so that, you know, not only have you, as you're all saying, that you save on ink, it also will allow me now to go back and add more colour and more colour to this side because I haven't oversaturated the paper. So there we go. That's my tip for today. Moving on. Blue. Let's go with blue shorts. Do you want a grey blue, a bright blue? What type of blue? Bright? All right. So let's go with the denim dark. All right, denim wins. So I'm going to use my B90s. If I can find my last one. B99. Alrighty. Alright, so I'm going to use B93, B95, B97, and B99. Jen, do you want to put that into the screen for me, into the chat? Please. Thank you, Jen. Alright, so I'm going to start with my B95. It isn't my lightest, but it isn't my darkest. And I always try and start in the easiest area first. And in this particular image, there's already some like little creases around the groin area. So I'm going to start bringing some creases out there. So with my B95, I'm going to flick out here. And I'm going to bring a flick out there. We might even, why don't we do I don't know, do another one here. Would you start with the middle? You've only got 3, so which do you have? What's your darkest? B97? $97, $95. Yeah, so start with your 95. Okay, so I'm just the B99 I only use at the very end just to add that extra depth again. So you could even do that with a cool grey, maybe like a C7. You'd probably be able to get the same effect of what I'm going to do with the B99. So I'm just going to bring in some, I'm going to just bring these across a little bit further and then bring another fold over here. And you can see that I've sort of got the point to the center of these 2 folds just to help it. I don't know why I do that. See, I don't have any qualifications. You're just watching a crazy person who likes to color and has spent too many hours doing this. Okay. So I'm just going to bring another fold in over here because maybe his hand is somehow creasing his pants or something. All right. All right, so we're going to come in with B97 now, and I'm going to make some of these darker, and I'm working on the top part of it, so thinking that I'm just putting the shading directly under where I want my highlight to be. Okay, and so now I'm going to come back with B95 and fill in some of these areas. want to start filling in the white. And I might, when I'm doing this, when I'm filling in, I might leave sort of areas where I want it to still be highlighted, but not as deep folds or creases as the other areas. Okay. So I'm just going to come in with B97 again because I lost some of the color. Yes, Ruby. So I start with my main blue. I start with my main color, I guess, just to get an idea of where I'm going to do the folds, and then I go up a color to make it to define some of those areas, and then I come back to the main color and I start filling it in, and then I'll finish with the lightest color, and then the very end I'll use my darkest color or a gray, or depending on what it is that I'm doing, just to get that additional depth, and then I don't touch it. So I'm back with B97 just to get some of this color back into the folds before I lose them. Also get some shading in here too. Okay. Now I'm going to come in with my B93 and just color in this whole area. And if I lose too much of my color, my main color, I might just come in and fix some of that up, which I'm going to do. So I'm coming back in with B95 now. And just to finish off, I'm coming in with B99, and this is just the very, very final of where I just want to have the really dark spots to make it pop. And I'm really, really careful where, not careful, I'm very light, that's the word. So you can see that you could do this with any dark color. And that's it. That's his pants done. So what color are we going to do his hair, girls? Night, Anne. Thanks for popping by. Okay, so we're going to go blonde. All right. Now, I am going to say to you right now that I still have trouble colouring big blocks of hair. So we'll see how I go. I don't know how much advice I can really offer you. All right, so I'm going to keep his hair really light blonde. And I'm going to use E50, E53 and the colourless blender. Yes, he's holding a shell. All right, we haven't coloured his eyes. What colour are his eyes going to be? What about green eyes? All right, let's go with green. All right, so I'm going to use G09 and YG06, one sort of darkish and one really bright. And to work out where my dark is going to be, I sort of draw a line. So he's got the highlight here, and he's got a highlight here. So I draw a line sort of across the middle of those, and that'll be my dark side, and then the that probably made absolutely no sense, so I'll just do it. So I'm going to have my dark up in the corners here, where my imaginary line across here, and then bring my light green, and you want these to be quite different in contrast. Actually, it's probably not enough. I'm going to bring my G28 and just go back into those corners, and then bring my light green to bring it out. Like so. You better tell her the new colour, Jen. Or Deb. Also, I changed to G28. All right. So the same as on this side. So I've got my imaginary line. Put my dark colour in. And then bring my light colour, and I'm blending it out. And just to make sure that that's nice and dark, I'm just going to put another dot. Like so. Okay, we have green eyes. Alrighty, so we've got hair, E50, E53 and the colourless blender, and I may end up adding another colour. It's quite possible. It's quite possible. Alright, so we're going to start with E50. And as we know, we still know that our light source is coming from this direction. How much of that I've actually done, I do not know. I've tried. So what are we going to do? Let's just start by adding some colour to the left side of his fringe or bangs, whatever you'd like to call it. And I've been watching some videos on manga art. This is E50. So I've been watching some videos on manga art, and they talk about how you always need to have a center point of where your hair is or hair comes from. So when I'm coloring, I imagine where my center point is and then try and work that into my coloring somehow. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. So I'm bringing it from my imaginary center point. And I'm bringing it down the sides here. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this color because it's quite light. And I'm just going to color this here. Okay. So I'm just going to use E53 now and pretty much do the same thing. And then the same on this side. And then I'm just going to bring some depth under his hair here. He's going to have like very light blonde hair, so I'm not going to add too much color because otherwise it won't look as realistic. And I'm just going to add some on the ends here, and I'm bringing it towards my highlight. Okay, and come back with my E50 and just fill in this top here. Actually, I don't think I'm going to use my colorless blender. I'm happy with how this is blended to the white. So there we go. I want to leave some of the streaks in there so it looks a little bit messy. Can you actually see any of the details? Is that just a smudge? Do I use my blender often? Not really. I get told that people use their blender all the time, and I fail to find a use for it, to be honest. So, but that's just me. Oh, actually, no, I tell a lie. I tell a lie. I'm just remembering when I do actually use it. Let me show you a trick. Let me show you a trick. So, we've got our red. So we've got our red top here, and this is all dried now. So if you wanted to make your highlights really, really pop, you can come in with your colorless blender. So I'll show you what happens. Now that it's dried, you come in with it, and I just go along it, and it starts to lift off your highlights and make them brighter. So I've done that occasionally. Especially you've seen some of my magnolias. Some of the dresses on those I've come back in with the Colours blender just to make them that little crisper. For this technique, well, it doesn't bleed, Ruby, because I'm not on the edge. I'm only going over where it already is a highlight, and I haven't tried it when it's wet, but it definitely comes off easier when it's dry, if that makes sense. Yes. Okay. So let's move on to what would you like to do next? We have two options because how long have we been going for? An hour. Hey, I didn't do too bad. 1 hour. It's not too bad. So we could colour Ebony over here, or we could colour the Hula Girl. How come you've got your sons watching this? I feel so sorry for them. My last group had their husbands watching. All right, I'm just going to take a quick break. Can everyone just take a like a 5 or 10 minute break so I can go to the loo and stuff and recover my voice, and I'll be back. So I'm going to pause the recording and the video, and I'll write a message when I'm coming back on. All right, sound good? I'll be back in about 5 or 10 minutes.